Hello, everyone, and welcome to the first episode of Pop and SpectaKoo. Now, this is going to be a Let's Play. Shut up. I'm doing a bit.
Oh, I'm sorry. I guess I bit down too early.
Bit. No, I lost it. I lost the inspiration.
Concept.
Look, we're gonna talk about.
Are you feeling
stuff
bitter
we like right now
about it?
Look, I'm trying to do an intro. We are here to talk about Outer Wilds, the video game by Mobius Digital, published by Annapurna Entertainment in 2019, which got an expansion DLC called Echoes of the Eye in 2021. And we have thoughts about the game, and since me and SpectaKoo here are such avid fans of incessant media discourse and analysis, interlaced with jokes and bits and all that sort of funny stuff, we thought that we would record something on that topic. Just gonna be talking about Outer Wilds, different elements about it, our own experience with it, and sort of like our contrasting opinions. Because while we both do agree that it's very good, and we both still agree that Echoes of the Eye is at the very least good, we certainly are not the same person, no matter how it may seem, at least not anymore. So let's just jump right into the first topic, which I had in mind would be on background on how we discovered and played the game. So do you want to give your thoughts on that, SpectaKoo, your life story leading up to
well, I'm
Outer
pretty
Wilds?
sure that it came out in like 2019, right? 2019,
Yeah,
that's the
yes.
era of release. Okay, so I originally heard about it like right as it came out, because I think Rith had played it like right after it came out and was like, dude, there's this game where like you start exploring this like world and then the sun explodes and you die and then it resets and you have to do it all over again. And I was like, oh, that's cool. It's just like that movie, Edge of Tomorrow with Tom Cruise. That's cool.
I haven't seen it.
And then I didn't play it. And then more and more of my friends played it, and they were all like, oh my god, this game cured my arthritis. And I was like, wow, that sounds pretty, like, it sounds like a religious experience. And they were like, yeah, I found God thanks to this game. And I still didn't play it.
Nothing wrong.
Until I don't know who actually eventually like fully bullied me into playing it. I had it in my library for a year.
I was bullying you for it for a long time. Let's just say I was part of that.
Oh yeah, no, everyone was bullying me to play it, but I just ignored everyone. But I don't remember what the like straw that broke the camel's back was, because I know Cole gave it to me for Christmas, like a year before I actually played it, like Christmas 2020 or something. So
I feel like we did some kind of it might have been some kind of cultural exchange.
I think it
me and
was.
You, actually.
I don't remember.
I think I watched or played something that you wanted me to watch or play.
I think it was I wanted you to watch or play something, and you were like, okay, well, if you play Outer Wilds, then like I'll do that.
Yeah, because I just searched up cultural exchange, and I see you this year saying, I just want to thank you for making Outer Wilds my end of the cultural exchange. So it was me.
Yeah. Okay. So, but what was your end? Like, what did I make?
I think it might have been like playing it was the Wheel of Time 1999 boomer shooter. I think
that doesn't make sense.
Why wouldn't it make sense?
Because that's me playing it both times. Like, in what world is that a cultural exchange?
Wait, no, that's a good point.
Ooh, wow! Looks like your brain is a wheel because it spins and spins.
Yeah, sure. Okay.
I don't know where I'm going.
I guess I'll think about it while you continue your narrative here.
Well, you can think about it by like going to where I said that and then scrolling up a bit. But anyway, you could also like search Outer Wilds and like look for mentions of that. I'm sure that
true. I'll do that. I'll do the detective work.
Yeah,
while you talk.
And evidently we had some kind of cultural exchange. Did Pop ever uphold their end of the bargain? I'm not convinced.
Find out later.
Yeah. Give him like a minute and a half. But yeah, and then I played it on stream. I don't remember why I decided to stream it. I mean, I don't think I had streamed in a hot minute, and it seemed like since it was the sort of game that you can only experience once, I didn't know much about the game, but I knew that, and I was like, well, you know what, maybe people will want to have an archive of me doing just that. And I think it was a good idea. It's some of the most fun I've had streaming. it was just like a really pleasant experience to be able to like experience it alongside other people, some of whom I don't
Dark
think
Souls!
have played it. Oh, okay, so you didn't uphold your end of it.
I played it, and I didn't like it that much.
Ooh. Yeah, you played it for an hour and was like, yep, that's definitely the amount of time I need to immerse myself in a piece of media before it catches on. Mm-hmm. And then you gave up and moved on. If I had only played 1 hour of Outer Wilds and then put it down, I would not have been like, wow, I really have to come back to that sometime. Because that's not how getting into a game works.
Yeah, okay, fine. I'll play it. It was more the emulation and controls on PC weren't gelling with me. I had some trouble with my like gamepad and stuff.
Ooh, wow. Oh, that's so sad. Oh, poor you.
Look, let's just stay on topic, okay?
Yeah.
So we're streaming it.
Sure. Mm-hmm. But yeah, well, I mean, I think that's just about, if we're talking about like background on how I discovered and played it, that's the majority of the story of how I bumped into it. As far as playing it went, I think even though I have a habit of sequence breaking every piece of media I touch, I think I actually played Outer Wilds pretty normatively. I traveled around, found out that the sun was going to atomize me at the end of every cycle. Started
spoilers, by the way,
getting into the meat of the game. Yeah, obviously did we like not outline that? Like, yeah,
we'll put a spoiler warning at some point.
Yeah, we're talking about like everything, so definite spoilers, obviously.
Yes.
I started like getting into the meat of the game, realized that the meat was all text, and I'm pretty sure I said something like, "Oh God, is this game going to be all reading? I'm going to be bored out of my mind." I think was what I ended up what I said, which could not have been further from the truth, because the reading is like the best part of the game. So I don't know if I was talking out of my ass or what, if that was like meant to be like a funny streamer bit, or if I was genuinely being serious when I said that. But yeah, I think by like stream 3, I was like completely invested in like the characters and the story. Part of what helped was that I associated a certain voice with every character. So I made some of them sound like this, and some of them sound like this, and then I think one of them sounded like Richard Nixon. But like it was like that sort of assigning characters to like each name helped me keep track of who is who, which I think really, really helped me remain invested in each and every character in the story. And then I met Solanum, and I cheered and cried and sobbed, and I tried to shake her hand, but unfortunately the limitations of digital media prevented me from doing that.
I shook her hand in VR.
Yeah, we all want to be you. I get it. I know.
Yeah, I know.
But yeah, no, it was good. I know by the end of my time streaming it, everyone was berating me for being too stupid to figure out the Ash Twin project. And then I actually got, I think the only raid I got during the entire time I streamed the base game of Outer Wilds was during the ending in the Ancient Glade. And Husky dumped like 50 people into my stream during the end of Outer Wilds, which, God bless you, Husky, thank you very much, but that was probably not the best time to do that.
It's funny because that exact same thing, not quite the exact same thing, but I think anyone who's played both games knows that it's pretty much the exact same thing happened to me when Terrace Music, bless her heart, great musician, great friend of mine, who I was supposed to go hiking with in Los Angeles, but I got COVID, so sadly that did not happen. But so I was streaming Rain World. And it was my final Rain World stream, and I was going through the ending, and I was in a bathrobe, and the room was dark, and I had a face cam on, and the only thing lighting me up was a fucking celestial golden glow on my face, as my eyes were white as a fucking rhinoceros, and I got like a raid from Terrace Music, like Terra Raid, let's go, and I'm just like hypnotized by the truth of the universe in front of me. And they were like, what's going on here? I like descend into the pit of Tartarus.
Yeah, no, I was like in the middle of like sobbing my eyes out as Travelers played. And then as It's like, Husky Raid. I'm like, welcome to the stream, guys. Spoilers, by the way.
Yeah, we can talk about the ending a bit more later on in more detail.
Yeah, that was just a little. That was like to whet their appetite, you know, a little bit of the entree before the main course.
Certainly.
Or as we in the States would say, the appetizer before the entree, because we have it backwards.
What?
But because like, like in like English countries, it's like entree is like an appetizer, but in the States, entree means main course, and I don't understand how that got mixed up.
But it's literally like entree. It's like entrance. You know, it's like the.
Yes, I know.
Okay, whatever.
I'm not trying to justify it.
Okay. Anyway, so. My friend Bulus, who with whom I've done podcast episodes before, who's Finnish, great guy. He has a good track record of suggesting media to me, and me getting way too invested in them compared to even him. It's happened with Subnautica. It happened with Saga, the comic, and other stuff as well, where he's like, "Hey, I think you could like this." And I'm like, "Cool," and then I read it. I'm like, "Have you finished yet? I want to talk to you about this." Well, actually, no. I played Subnautica because this is relevant. I played Subnautica because of a review in a Finnish video game magazine, and it basically just like started with a sort of visceral description of a certain play experience that the reviewer had, and I'm like, wow, this is tantalizing. This is titillating both the senses. I want to play this game. And then I played Subnautica, and my friend Bulus was playing it at the same time, so we had a lot of exchange with that. We had like a little session where we played it together. We were kind of like multiplayer, but not really, because it's a single player game, but we were like going in the same area, because we were at the same point in the story, and we're trying to like discover the game world and stuff like that together. But anyway, that was in 2018. And so in 2019, because the game came out in like the beginning of June 2019. I think it was like the 1st of June even. And then Bulus was like, "Hey, you liked Subnautica, right? I think you might like this game," because he had been following the game's Kickstarter and stuff like that. So he was like, "This cool game, Outer Wilds, is out. It's cool. It's got like space exploration and like kind of like Metroidvania-ish game feel, and it's like, you like Subnautica. It's a little bit like that." 3D sort of like spaceship movement. Let's go. And I'm like, cool. And I played the game, and I'm like, cool. And then I beat the game. And I'm like, you know. And then I said, cool. That was a good game. And my life was changed forever.
Yeah. So see, when you recommended me Outer Wilds, you had the track record of, you recommended me a piece of media and I would use it as a door stopper. So it wasn't as like consistent. So naturally going into Outer Wilds, even though I had heard like from everyone ever, like this game is going to change the way you perceive the world around you. And I'm like, okay, like I kind of go in with like the expectation of, oh, this is probably going to be like a really good experience, but you kind of never know what that means until it actually hits you. Yeah, and so even though I knew it was going to be something great, and I kind of had that like very like just, you know, blank neutral understanding of, oh yeah, okay, it's going to be really good. That's good to know. I'm sure I'll really enjoy this. But obviously you don't know what really enjoying something means until you actually experience it. So
certainly, like, you don't know sex before it hits you. You know, the sex game.
That's you have to. Like,
you know what I mean?
Poggers. I'm going to use the word poggers to describe the experience.
Poggers game. Okay, fine.
Yeah, it was a poggers game.
You don't know poggers before it hits you.
Yeah, exactly. Like you can't just pog at something you don't know. You know.
No. Like even if you know that something is pog to someone else, it's so unique to every person. So
yeah, like you can't really pog champ without the appropriate stimuli.
So the champ really comes from nowhere in a sense. Like you really can't expect it. It just like it rolls over you like a wave of juvenile Twitch.
Yeah, basically, because every PogChamp is personalized. So like just like experiencing a piece of media that makes you Pog is like each piece of media like that is unique. So you don't know how you're going to Pog at it until it's champ worthy.
True. Okay, let's just move on from this analogy.
Yeah, I've been
please.
trying to move on, but you keep like
You're
deepening
the
the
one who
Pog
was
lore.
just-
Look,
You were
okay,
just-
you started it by calling it sex, so it is your
Yeah, you
fault
brought
this
the-
2-minute tangent happened.
You can't blame me for the Pog because you're the one who brought it up. I would have been done. I would look. Okay, one Pog element of this game, I think, for me, is how it very much taps into a love for astronomy and space that I think was born through Super Mario Galaxy for me as a kid, because Super Mario Galaxy was for me very, very, very formative media. That was like one of the first games that I played that really like made me immersed in another world, into something fantastical. Because before that, I've been playing like Wii Sports and Mario Kart and stuff like that. But then Mario Galaxy was one of my first like single player experiences like that. So from a young age, I was always like, I loved space. I loved anti-gravity shit. So Outer Wilds very much tapped into those Mario Galaxy brainworms.
Yeah, I think the game that got me really interested in outer space and space exploration was Star Wars Empire at War and the Forces of Corruption expansion pack for the PC.
Never played that.
It was a Star Wars RTS game, and like the planets were put on a similar scale to Outer Wilds, where it was basically just like it was like one like rather small gimmicky stage, and these planets were all these like huge big spheres in a tiny little solar system, and you would just like hop between them and like battle on them. And I think that's why Outer Wilds appealed to me, because it was just like Star Wars Empire at War Forces of Corruption.
The expansion.
Well, yeah, like I guess Echoes of the Eye is to Forces of Corruption what Empire at War is to Outer Wilds.
Truly. Either way, that's a very good segue to move on to more concretely talking about the gameplay and structure and world design of the game, talking about the planets and stuff like that, because I'm sure that we both agree that it is peak Kino epic based to take your ship around a diorama solar system with basically just your own curiosity and knowledge of the mechanics and the plot. I don't want to say narrative per se, because I feel like I'm reserving that term for like the player's own progression through the game, but at least the plot of what happened to the Nomai and everything, just taking you around the place like you're in an episode of Scooby-Doo. Not to connect that in any way to the famous line from Spider-Man No Way Home, but you get what I mean. It's very
what
fun.
What are you talking about?
No, you know when Doctor Strange is like, please Scooby-Doo this shit, What? How do you not remember? I thought you saw that movie like 5 times.
I saw it once.
Oh, never mind. You don't understand Marvel jokes. You don't understand good humor. You don't understand good writing. Well,
that just happened. He's behind me, isn't he?
Yeah, Scooby-Doo this shit. Anyway, okay, but what do you think? Do you agree with me that the game is essentially a Metroidvania taken to a sort of logical conclusion of the essence of what that sort of game is?
Yeah, I see where you're coming from here, because I know what direction you're going in, because I specifically remember after, I think, my second Outer Wild stream, which on stream I did the ending where you like duplicate a black hole and like the world destroys itself and like you get an ending. And you said, oh, how'd the stream go? And I like jokingly said to you, oh, I beat it. And then I sent you the clip of the ending, and you just didn't watch it and immediately started talking to me about how you beat the game for the first time. And we're like, oh, it's really fascinating how they use boss keys, like turning off the Ash Twin project and getting beneath Giants Deep to see the codes. And I'm like, shut up, Pop! Like, what are you doing?
I don't think did I say those things? I think I said boss.
Yes, you said boss keys, and then in parentheses specifically outlined each boss key.
Well, you told me you beat the game.
Yeah, well, you didn't watch the clip I sent you.
Yeah, well, I trusted your word because you never.
Because I never lie or say anything sarcastic.
You're
to you,
never
ever.
facetious with me. Never.
Fish, kind of like on Giants Deep.
Yeah.
Well, actually, in Dark Bramble, there's no fish on Giant's Deep, is there?
Well, no, there's. Are jellyfish fish? It's in a name though.
I think they're a gelatinous mass with tentacles.
Well, yeah, but I think they still classify it as fish. Look, either way, I'm sorry about that, but
I don't think they do.
But I don't think we need to. Fish. I don't think we need to carve out those old wounds.
Jellyfish are not fish.
What? But it's in the name. Why are they called jellyfish then? Call them jelly organisms.
Yeah, because like being a fish, it, like requires you to have a backbone, and jellyfish are like really scared and anxious, so they don't.
Yeah, they don't have bones. Yeah. Cool.
Well, that's
so they're just like
but.
Well, either way, go on with your point past bringing up my talking about boss keys or whatever, Metroidvania. That's what I was asking you. Do you agree that the game is like a Metroidvania?
In that. I think so, actually, because I mean it has backtracking, so it takes that box.
That's not the only qualification.
Well, I know, but I think it is interesting how the game turns knowledge into like power-ups, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Like it's definitely not in the conventional sense, but I do think structure-wise it is designed in the same way you would design a Metroidvania, where you start exploring areas, and then the more you learn about the game, the more you have a heightened understanding of the importance of those areas and can go back and make meaningful changes to them that you couldn't have before, and in doing so unlock new, not necessarily power-ups, but MacGuffins, I guess, to progress this. That sounds like demeaning, but like just tools that allow you to progress the story, even if it's not like in a strictly gameplay sense. So yeah, I think I agree with your assessment.
Yeah, the reason I was talking about boss keys in that sense was that I. The ending of the game, right? It's something that you can do like 5 minutes into starting the game if you know what you're doing in a sort of speedrun sense. But unlike a game like Breath of the Wild, where you technically, once you've done the tutorial area, you can run straight into Ganon's castle and beat him, but you don't have the skill set or the equipment for that. Outer Wilds has a similar thing, right? You can beat the game, but it has stuff blocking it that like you cannot overcome without playing the game almost fully. I mean, obviously in Breath of the Wild, yeah, you kind of have like the 4 divine beasts, right? That do the first blast of damage to Ganon, but that's not necessary. You don't necessarily need any of that to beat Ganon. But in Outer Wilds, you really do need, and as I said, I call them boss keys, but which is to say that the coordinates for the Eye of the Universe. I almost said Eye of the World, first book of the Wheel of Time. Eye of the Universe, right? And you need to know where the vessel is. That's the second part, and then you need to have the advanced warp core, which is inside the Ash Twin project, and. Without all of those 3 elements, you fundamentally cannot access the ending, because you don't even know where the ending is. You don't even know what the hell you're doing. It's kind of like the door is behind you, but you need to know to turn around. And the information required to know how to turn around is to first to use your legs and then to turn your body. I don't know where I'm going with that analogy.
Well, it puts you in a deeply unusual like position as far as like games go, where a lot of the appeal of Metroidvanias is that they tend to be replayable, because there's lots of different ways you can go through them, the order you go through areas, the order you get new abilities, and it changes the way you play the game each time. Whereas because Outer Wilds like progression and abilities are all based on knowledge, it's not something that you really can replay, which is not. Like a massive shame. But Outer Wilds is a game you can only really play once, and every time afterwards you're exploring, maybe you're learning new things, but you're not really playing Outer Wilds anymore, because once you know how to beat it, that's like that. I mean, that's kind of like that's what the game is. Like you already have all of the power-ups you need, because it's just memory. It's just things you've learned. Nothing is actually really collected in the bog standard gaming sense.
And I would say it goes even further than, because like you could argue that it's like replaying Outer Wilds is like rereading a book or rewatching a movie that you've seen before. In a sense, like obviously, first of all, games are by default not as linear as something like that. But I feel like you could make the argument that like, okay, you know how it's gonna end, you know how to do it. So if you replay it, you're essentially just kind of going through it again. But I would say that it goes even further into really not being that experience, because not only do you already know the story, you know what to do, but the way you progress through the story during your initial playthrough, which is often the only playthrough, during your playthrough of the game, is so it's so controlled by your own personalized. But what I mean is like it's so controlled by what you don't know. Is when you see a piece of information, you're putting it together with what you know, and then you're contrasting that against what you don't know. But if you try to do a playthrough, if you try to do like an organic playthrough of Outer Wilds after you've already beaten it, you go to a place, you see something, and after that, like where you go next, it's not really anymore a part of the gameplay. It's just like, I guess I could go here and read this again, but it's like, it's really not motivated by exploration anymore. You're just kind of running through a checklist.
And the reason entirely why is because the hatchling isn't a character. The hatchling is you. Like, you are the character. And the reason why replaying or rereading a book or rewatching a movie or even replaying like more like story-driven games with characters works
Uncharted
is because you get to watch the characters learn new things again. Like they're reset back to zero. They don't know anything. The story starts progressing. They start learning things. But in the case of Outer Wilds, you are the character, and you cannot flip that switch in your brain to forget everything that happened. So you go into the story already knowing what happened. It's like if you decide to rewatch like Aliens, and Ripley already knows that like the base is going to go to hell, so they just tried to destroy it from orbit from the beginning.
She just doesn't go there. Like she just says, fuck it.
It's like it's almost like your own personal like time loop, where you're brought back to the beginning of the game and asked to go through its events again, except you already have the memories you already had going into it. So it doesn't really work anymore. And I think that makes the experience better than like any other like Metroidvania could be, because in those games, like getting new power-ups, progressing is entirely determined by how much you've learned about how to play the game and like your skills being put to the test. Whereas in Outer Wilds, it's like mental gymnastics. It's like you're exercising your brain to learn things. And I think putting 2 and 2 together for the first time is always going to be a little bit more exciting than pressing buttons in just the right order to win good. So I think that enhances the experience and makes it better than finding other boss keys would be under normal circumstances in a game, with the caveat of you can never do it twice.
Yeah. I'm not sure if I would agree with you on whether it's fundamentally better or worse. I don't think you can really qualify that against.
Well, I mean, I'm obviously talking from a very opinionated angle.
Yes, but it is wholly different, so I personally wouldn't compare it, but I see what you mean.
I think I was more meant to imply not that it was better, but that it makes it more important to you.
Right, more personally important, relevant. And that's why in my analysis of the game, I've often said that the true kind of story, the main meat of the story of the game is the meta-narrative. And in my own game analysis, I usually define meta-narrative as what the player themselves kind of goes through along the game, which is say it's the story of the game that they see, the order in which they see it in, and the way they themselves deal with the themes of the game. They figure stuff out, the triumphs and the fails and stuff like that. So, for example, in Undertale, I would say that the meta-narrative would encompass, for example, a person who would do the neutral ending, and they do the true ending, and then they go through the genocide ending. The meta-narrative would include all of that, and how the player kind of goes from like, oh wow, this is a cute little RPG Maker game. Oh shoot, I shouldn't probably kill people. Wow, this is interesting. Oh, but I don't want to actually do the genocide run. Oh no.
Yeah, exactly.
Sans, I want to kill this Sans guy.
What
that's like the meta narrative.
if I killed everyone? Yeah. Yeah, like the player's own personal progression. It's basically it's just the narrative in the case of Outer Wilds. Like the character that's being developed is you.
That's why I think in Outer Wilds that terminology is so, or that definition is so relevant, because as you said, that is by very much throughout the game, it is the story. That's why I say the plot of the game is sort of like the lore of the game is there. It's a set story, but the main narrative of the game is different for everyone, because it's a very, very, very non-linear game. But this, then I think this is a good segue to my own narrative sort of like thesis when analyzing Outer Wilds. Now, some people have, I think, recently talked about some of these points on YouTube, because I was thinking of actually doing a video essay on this like a year ago or 2 years ago even. I've been cooking up the idea that Outer Wilds, the meta-narrative of Outer Wilds, while we all agree that it's different for each player, it is still very much structured in 3 main acts. And that is to say that these acts are separated by the player's internal sort of like realization on their goals and what they're trying to do in the game.
Can I guess what they are?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so I think Act 1 is like you like starting to immerse yourself in the world. Like just simply laying the groundworks of, okay, I'm in a place that I personally, like as a character, don't understand yet, so I need to start learning about what's going on around me. But once the pieces start fitting into place, that moves into Act 2, where you're personally invested, and every player is probably thinking to themselves, I need to stop the sun from exploding. And Act 3 is when you realize that, that's not what this game is about, is it? Like, I'm not here to save the solar system. I'm here to watch it die.
Exactly, you got it. That's what I'm saying. It's like I think it's so fantastic that almost all players that I talk to have that fundamental progression.
Yeah, no matter
that makes it so effective. Like, it's not just a scrambled story. It is still very much a structured narrative that they somehow managed to make happen in such a nonlinear setting.
Yeah, I think it's just a neat little hat trick. I mean, it's like it seems like, even though there's no dialogue, even though the game's filled with dialogue, there's nothing specifically telling you this is your goal. You kind of make it for yourself. But the most obvious goal internal. Any player could make is the sun is exploding is not just inconvenient for me as like an immersed character trying to navigate the solar system, but it's also inconvenient for all of the characters that I like being atomized. So naturally, what I need to do is stop it. It just seems like the logical direction a game like Outer Wilds would take. I'm learning new things. I have to learn how to stop this from happening.
Yeah, and obviously that's not rocket science, because it's not exactly the most subtle of goals. But the way that is then shifted through a little bit of railroading, and that is just to say that most players would not make the sort of shift from Act 2 into Act 3 before they enter the sun station, right? That's kind of like a bottleneck.
Yeah,
almost. The game has these.
It's the moment where everything starts to make sense. It's
so they were bottleneck element.
Yeah, it's like they never actually finished making this, because you realize once you arrive on the sun station that they had just left for the interloper once this test failed.
Yeah. Crazy.
And you go, so they never actually got to do something that could have caused the sun to go supernova. It's just doing that all on its own.
Yeah. Fun fact, by the way. I think I said this to you maybe or someone else, but that text about the sun's natural life cycle was never in the sun station at launch. They added that later. So what I saw in the sun station when I played the game was only that it will never work. The sun station won't never work. And that was the only thing that was in there. And while it was obviously enough to be like, oh, this is a natural thing, for me, I think at that point I was still a little unsure whether it was the sun's natural life cycle or the interloper hitting the sun somehow, and then some residual ghost matter making the sun go boom. But either way, the result would have been that it's a natural event that you have no way of stopping. So I still essentially had that realization, you know. But yeah, they've certainly done like some things since the launch day that kind of makes the story a little bit more clearly shown. And obviously you don't necessarily need that text to be there for it to be clear, but I think like for my part, I was, I guess, a little bit still in the sort of mindset of like real world a time scale, which is to say that the sun doesn't naturally just explode that fast. But either way, whichever case it would have been, which is, you know, the natural cycle, or you know, the interloper doing something funky there. The conclusion was still that I can't stop this. This is a natural thing.
Yeah, I think the interloper is like a really clever red herring, because Outer Wilds does it time and time again. It's like it's a perfect mystery where every new revelation, with the sole exception of the Ash Twin Project, makes you go, oh, like duh, why didn't I think of that? Like everything is starting to make sense, and nothing really starts to like make you look at the game differently than reaching the sun station for the first time, because the game is spoiling itself the moment you start playing. Like stars are exploding all across the backdrop of the game the longer into the cycle you go. Like it's telling you
don't pay attention.
It's telling you the universe is dying, but you're so tunnel visioned on the local problem of, oh, I need to stop our sun from exploding, that you don't even notice that every other sun is exploding too. It's a universal problem, and you don't realize it
masterful
until
sleight of hand. That's what it is.
It pulls the rug. Yeah, no, it really is.
Like, I don't think I've ever seen something like this where like all of the information is presented to you at once in like a cacophony of information, and like you just kind of go through like a little conspiracy board of like tidbits that make you then finally start to really see all the information around you. Because I think there are books that I feel like are analogous to Outer Wilds in some ways. That is to say, bear with me, Uminako no Nakokoroni and House of Leaves. I'm not going to go in depth to that, but that's obviously they're well, Uminako is a linear media, and House of Leaves is non-linear media in some ways. But both of those stories have elements of like the sort of core answers to what's going on here kind of being available to you from the start, but like the order, the story then kind of makes you visit these things in a specific order, kind of tunnel visioning you into parts, and then only later can you see, oh, that was there the whole time in the start. In the case of Umineko, it has like the sort of Agatha Christie crime novel sort of style where it's like the answers are kind of in plain view from the very beginning, but you need information later on and your own deductions to then be able to go back and see, oh, that's what it was saying the whole time. Yeah, and then House of Leaves is a story where it's stories within stories within stories, and also there's like a huge half of the book is appendices and poems and like unrelated media that you're like, what is the relevancy to the story in any sort of way? But as you go through it and you go back and forth between this thesis on a movie that doesn't exist, and this person's diary, and these letters from a mental institution, all that sort of stuff, and only as you really start to finish all of those elements together, you're like, oh, this is how it all comes together to form a narrative. And well, it's not the same thing. This is more so me suggesting media to Outer Wilds enjoyers, and if they want to have similar evolutions. But I think it's interesting to see like how this sort of thing can be done in books as well. But
yeah, I think in the case of Outer Wilds, the cacophony of information is the fact that you can go anywhere at any time, really, even with just a basic understanding of like the game's world and controls. And then the railroading is the fact that no matter how, like in what order you encounter the story in, you're eventually going to be driven to the conclusion of, I need to get to the sun station. Like everyone keeps talking about it. something about blowing up the star. What? That sounds like something we don't want to happen. So naturally, the assumption is we need to get to it as soon as possible. And it makes sense that there's nothing else to like dissuade you from thinking that it's the Sun Station's fault, because it's so like it's the last thing in Nomai history to happen. So it's not like there's other logs like talking about the failure of the Sun Station 50 years ago, because their history stopped. Like after the Sun Station test, history just by coincidence stopped. So you have no choice but to go there and realize that all of your searching was leading you to a dead end.
You know, it is such an ingenious way to pace the player, because it's like it's such an organic way. Like the way the player is tunnel visioned, railroaded, bottlenecked into these revelations, it is so organic. Because as you said, the Sun Station is timeline-wise, temporarily at the end of the Nomai history, right? And that is just the most logical and organic way for it to be the end game sort of goal for the player. And obviously, like, again, that's not rocket science when you lay it out loud like that. Obviously, yes, the end of the timeline in a game where you read through a nonlinear history would be the sort of more curious thing to go through, and probably something that happens towards the end. It's just that, like, the creativity of the writers and the designers to synergize the gameplay and the story like that, it's just mind-blowing to me.
Yeah, as non-linear as like Outer Wilds is, like technically, I think the storytelling actually tends to be like on a few different linear tracks, because like what are most players going to bump into first? Probably the distress beacons screaming at them over their signal scope. So you end up following like Nomai history linearly, even if your gameplay experience isn't linear. Because you start at the escape pods, you find their etchings of, here, we're going to start setting up a city here, and then you find their individual cities, and you start learning about what they were doing there. And once you visited all of those places, you have this aggregate of information and realize what it is you need to do next, until you realize that what you were doing was fruitless. I think in that sense, is a linearness to the narrative of the story being a track of the Nomai arriving in the universe, or in the solar system rather, and then following their development in the solar system until finally it concludes at the Sun Station. And you start finding other information, whether it be in the vessel or beneath Giant's Deep, that starts to recontextualize like the information you had already taken in by telling you what might have happened before or after it. But it's still the same basic structure of you, the player, are learning at the same rate as the Nomai colony is developing.
Right. We've gone pretty deep into the story at this point. I think before we talk about the ending, it would be nice to mention a little bit about our thoughts on like the presentation of the game and the music a little bit, and because I love the soundtrack to this game, like country sort of bluegrass style plus sort of post-rock depression put together into something optimistic is like, it fits the game so well.
Yeah, I don't think there are like heaps of other soundtracks where I'll like just like every so often, every couple of weeks, I'll listen to like the same like 2 or 3 songs, and they make me want to tear up, like just thinking about my time playing the game. Like the Final Voyage in particular, I think is the most important soundtrack song on the soundtrack to me. And maybe the Ancient Glade too. I think the Ancient Glade is probably my favorite, but Final Voyage might be the most important. Even if my first experience with it was me taking out the warp core from the Ash Twin project pretty late in the cycle, and me immediately assuming the sun was exploding and panicking as I was desperately trying to get to Dark Bramble as fast as possible and scuffing it the entire time because I thought I was like about to ruin my save because I did it too soon at the wrong point.
You know, it's okay, bro. I took the warp core out and then I hit my head on the wall and died. So I also had to be like, okay, round 2. I was like, let's save the universe. Boop. Oh, never mind.
I'm pretty sure I panicked so hard because I didn't understand like what people in chat were trying to tell me. Like, no, dude, it's fine. The sun isn't exploding. And then I took so long trying to figure out what was happening that it started exploding. And then they were like, dude, it's gonna blow, dude. What are you doing? And so I flew into the sun.
Like, make up your mind.
I'm pretty sure I flew into the sun in a panic. I couldn't take the pressure.
Me being certainly the musically astute one of us, I heard it.
You noticed that there was an additional layer of chords introduced into the song at a pivotal moment in the storyline.
There was
recontextualizing your experience.
The final voyage is, I think it's one of the strongest reactions that I've had to like music in a narrative media ever. Just like it put me in a trance essentially. Because as I like to say, the best time to finish media is at 2 a.m. because you're at your most emotional, and it's gonna make you cry the most. I beat Metal Gear Solid 3 at 2 a.m. and my mom came into my room when the credits were rolling. She's like, going to bed. I'm like, just go away. She was a true patriot, Mom.
I think I beat Metal Gear Solid 4 at like 6 p.m. in the evening, and I still cried twice, 2 separate times during its ending. Because one, it's so goddamn long, but like I genuinely like I cried, stopped crying, recovered, and then started crying again because it just kept going.
It's when Otacon says, "Snake had a hard life." That's when. That's the
second time. Going. That's definitely the second time right there.
Yeah. But and then I finished reading Norwegian Wood at 2 a.m. at my grandparents' place, and I was fucking bawling my eyes out. And just 2 a.m. Evangelion. I finished episode 26 at 2 a.m. and I had to call my sibling because I was crying so much. I was like, I just finished watching Evangelion, and they're like, what? And I'm like, Evangelion, and they're like, oh.
Not to sidetrack too far from Outer Wilds, but you cried at the end of Evangelion? Because whether it was the episodes or the movie itself, I came away from it feeling haunted. Like I wouldn't be able to cry for the next month, kind of haunted. Because it had just racked me. In the way that you're like internally crying, but not because you're emotional, but because you're afraid. Because that was the impact Evangelion had on me. Like it was it was an intense reaction, but it was the kind where I wasn't able to like express any emotion because it was just jarring. No.
For me, it was like when the glass breaks and the theme starts playing. I'm like, my waterworks are going.
You were like, and they all said congratulations to it.
Yes, shut up.
The penguin was there, and they went like,
shut up, bro. You don't get it. Really you don't get it. You don't fucking get it.
Yeah, I clearly don't. Especially because I don't like episode 25 or 26. I think we've. Let's not get into that right now.
I'm killing you. I'm killing you after this, okay? But let's just finish it first.
That's fair, but yeah, the content comes first.
Yes. So the music is wonderful, and
best in
fun
the biz.
thing. Like the fun thing about the character design for me is that like, yes, the Hearthians are adorable, the Nomai are fucking awesome, and we'll talk about the DLC. We might talk about the DLC at a later date, maybe. It might be a little late to put that at the end of this whole thing, but either way, adorable, cool, awesome character designs. For me, somehow, when I started playing the game in VR, I've done a few sessions because the VR mod by Raiko Parta, by the way, love you, bro. He has done just an amazing job on both the main game and the DLC VR mods. You have like all of your equipment is like at your waist and you pull it out like with motion controls. And then like, for example, the signal scope, you just like point it around. And if you want to zoom, it like does a little like telescope like scope on it that you can look through. And it's so cool. But somehow, seeing the Hearthians in VR makes them even cuter. And also, I hate them because they're all taller than me. Like, with the sole exception being like the little cowboy kids, that you play hide and seek with. They are all so much taller than me. And it's like the guy like who's stewing the soup. I'm like, I have to like look up at him to like talk to him. I'm like, fuck you. Why? Guys, stop being so tall. I don't want to feel this short. I'm not made up to be a Hearthian, clearly. But then the cowboy kid, the fucking cowboy kid, I don't know what it is. Some kind of neuron activation. I just want to like pinch his cheeks. You know, he's like the most adorable little boy, girl, whatever in the whole fucking universe. Seeing him in VR or them in VR. I'm sorry, Hearthians. I should say.
I'm pretty sure since they're amphibians, they're probably like gender fluid, like frogs. They can just change their gender at will.
Yeah, but either way, just like they're adorable in VR. I don't know, and also seeing Solanum in VR is like a religious experience.
It's transcendent. Yeah, I bet it's transcendent.
I'm like poking my fingers together and be like, oh, do you wanna be friends with me? You know, and also quantum stuff in VR is super trippy. It's so awesome. Like I think after saying that to Solanum, I went to the South Pole of the quantum moon, and then I was just like spinning in place, looking at her corpse changing position every time, and I'm like, wee, quantum
because
corpse.
it's like undoing object permanence, where you learn at a very young age that if you look away from something, it will still be there when you look back.
Yeah.
And suddenly Outer Wilds, like when you're in VR and just completely immersed, and you look at something, look away, and then quickly look back, and it's not there anymore, such as an entire building, it just completely short-circuits something in the back of your head.
It's trippy. It is very trippy. I think you're dead on with that assessment. But yeah, also the whole quantum stuff element is just such a good part of the game, and
it's super nifty. It's again something that you can like realize from the very beginning. Like half the time when you wake up, like the quantum moon is above Giants Deep while you're blinking, and then it's gone.
Yeah,
and it's just not something I ever thought about until it was like, oh yeah, by the way, there's a quantum moon, and I'm like, there's a what? And if you take a picture of it, you can land on it. And I'm like, there's a
there's a quantum moon, Harry. There's a what? You know, like you're a wizard, Harry. I'm a what?
Yeah, no, that's I don't really know where you're getting that from. I know my experience with reaching the quantum moon for the first time was that I created a spoiler for it. I don't really know how to explain that, but right after I had gotten back from, I had just finished the Tower of Quantum Knowledge, and there was a mural of two Nomai holding the quantum moon, and it never once occurred to me what that meant. And I made a joke about them like trying to steal the moon, because of course I did. And then someone in chat, I think it was Hif actually, and a few others started chanting, "And you take the moon," from the hit show Chowder. And I was like, oh, I guess you're right, guys. Like I should take a picture of the quantum moon, but like I hadn't, like, that's a spoiler, guys. I hadn't actually come to that conclusion myself. And everyone was like, what? We were talking about the mural. So I created a spoiler. And that was an interesting experience. So then I landed on the quantum moon, and it killed me the first time because its atmosphere looks way thicker than it actually is.
Oh yeah, did you just like ram into it?
Oh yeah, I rammed straight into it and died instantly.
Oh nice. Well, like you did in most places in the game, as I recall.
Well, because the game throws a water giant at you, like Giants Deep, and you think to yourself, okay, I can fly at that as quickly as possible and it won't kill me, like provided there's not the 2% chance I crash into solid ground. So you see the quantum moon, and you're like, oh yeah, that's like the same type of planet. Like it's just like the same like bump map, but with a different texture over it. So I flew straight into it. Yeah, but it could have been like an air moon, like a gas moon.
That's not. I don't think moons can be made out of gas. They're asteroids.
Oh, sorry. My apologies that most moons don't conform to your standards. Yeah, no, that's okay.
You mean most moons conform to my standards?
Yeah, no, that's fine. Yeah, I guess they can do that if they want to just like live in a bubble. You know who like lives in a better bubble? The air moons, because they're like an actual bubble. They're structured like one.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I just love the sort of like whimsical camp. The game really has a good way of combining like. Like a whimsical campfire. Let's go with a rickety wooden ship into space sort of thing, with like actually serious storytelling and like very
and cosmic horror from time to time,
poignant themes and that sort of stuff. But it's never really horror. It's more just like,
I think I actually have the rather bold take that I think the base game Outer Wilds is a better horror game than Echoes of the Eye is.
Well, I think it just depends on like what kind of horror you like.
I know. I'm generalizing. Let's say we're comparing them both as horror media. I think Outer Wilds is better horror media than Echoes of the Eye, because I think the cosmic fear that the base game of Outer Wilds gave me, of the sort of realizing the insignificance of your character, that you can't stop what's coming, just learning about what happened to the Nomai and just conceptually thinking about an entire culture disappearing in a blink, like that is terrifying. What happened to the people on the vessel? Them like desperately trying to get out, finding a way to keep their kin alive, and they all die suspended in space. That's terrifying.
Hugging each other.
The eye itself is also terrifying. Like, it's just a place, but there's something so impossible to understand about it, something so incomprehensible about its structure, about its purpose, about what any of it is, that it is scary, even if it's not in like a conventional horror sense. And I think it is infinitely more compelling than a bunch of faceless bird people jump scaring me because I turned my candle off and they snuck up on me. Like, it works much better, even if the vibes of Echoes of the Eye are more actively trying to be horror. And maybe that's why, part of why the Echoes of the Eye didn't work as much, because it like very much presented itself as horror media, and the base game kind of didn't. So I don't know if that skewed my opinion, but I do still think the base game of Outer Wilds is better as far as horror goes.
Yeah, I think, as I said, I think it's just like what kind of horror you like. It was, for me, cosmic horror, that sort of stuff never really makes me scared. Like, I've read Lovecraft and stuff like that, and I'm all over like, haha, funny roll Moloch, or whatever the monsters are called in at the Mountains of Madness, and stuff like
Migo.
Yeah, that sort of stuff. The shapeshifter, like the mimic sort of guys.
Right.
But either way, like, I like, yeah, the what Outer Wilds made me feel was with the sort of stuff that you felt as like scary, and well, not like jump scary, but frightening on a cosmic scale.
I know you're picking up what I'm putting down.
For me, it was like that. It wasn't really scary to me as much as it was like just kind of like sad and tragic. So I was more fixated on like the tragedy of the story and the melancholy of my failures to be able to do anything about it and stuff like that. But it never really made me feel scared, or it never made me like terrified about the fate of the universe, in a sense. More like just like sad, and then Echoes of the Eye for me was fun because I'm not a big jump scare sort of. I'm not strong on handling jump scares, right? I usually just like I can't play something like Five Nights at Freddy's because just like the knowledge that there's gonna be a jump scare is scary enough for me. Like I can't do it. I get like so anxious. But like somehow I Echoes of the Eye is the sort of thing where it's like, okay, this is Outer Wilds. I have to be able to do this. And then I scream my eyes out when a fucking bird monster comes into my face, and I just go like, ah, and I go like, ha, ha, ha. I love you, Outer Wilds, you know. So I like that horror experience in Echoes of the Eye, because it's just like, it's fun to me. I like playing Outer Wilds and then suddenly having a stealth horror mission. You know, it's like, I don't know, it's just cathartic in some way.
Oh yeah, no, it is fun. I think part of the reason why it didn't work as well for me is because I actually think Five Nights at Freddy's does a better job of building a tense atmosphere than Echoes of the Eye does.
Okay.
Just because like there wasn't like the same sort of scare factor to the jump scares, other than the jump scares themselves. It's like, oh my god, I didn't know that bird guy was there. Like, that startled me. But I wasn't on edge, like afraid of being startled. I'm not sure. I couldn't necessarily tell you why, but I don't think it builds an atmosphere in the same way. I get it.
FNAF for me, I like that it's still Outer Wilds, and I still have that Outer Wilds sense of exploration and wanting to find out what's going on. But then like adding that sort of like jump scare element to it, it's just like, it's cool to me. It's like, it's different from the main game. I like it.
Yeah, no, I am glad it's there. Like, even if it's not like entirely the cup of tea I want to drink, I'm still glad to have like had that cup of tea in my repertoire. You know?
Yeah. No, I get it. It's
I think it enhances the game by being there, for sure.
Yeah. But I think that's a good segue to start talking about the sort of finale of the main game, at least, and how the story kind of culminates in that. And I just, I guess, I kind of want to go ahead and give a little sort of narrative, kind of like the beginning of this talk, but kind of give a little narrative interview of how I experienced the ending, right? Because as I said, it was at 2 a.m., right? So lights are out. And I'm like, shit, because I was playing this game in like 3 days. You know, it was a summer vacation. I had nothing else to do. I had to just play 8 hours a day. You know, it took me like maybe 30 hours in total. I was playing 10 hours a day. Okay, I was like in it. I was fucking in this game. I lived this game. I breathed this game. There was a village meeting. There was like a village festival, and I went there for like 4 hours, and I sat there eating with everyone, like family members and relatives and like neighbors and stuff like that. I'm talking to people, and then inside I'm like dying. I'm like, I want to play Outer Worlds. 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 I couldn't think. I couldn't speak. I was there. I was eating, and I had a manic German fucking look in my eyes. I'm just looking around like a fucking paranoid android Radiohead. I'm like, I need to go back home. I need to go back home. What the fuck happened to the Sun Station? What the fuck happened to the Nomai? What is going on in the Ashstream project? I'm gonna die. You know, that was my life for those 3 days. It was Outer Worlds. So, Sun Station, can't do anything. That sucks. This is sad. For me, what was really resonant to me and why the game hit me so hard during that specific time that I played it in, was that at that time, I talked a bit about that in my old video where I roasted marshmallows and talked about Outer Worlds and my mental health, which was that I was going through a lot of stuff at that point. And one of the main things for me at that point was that it felt like a short while ago my life had been ripped out and put into a new world that I didn't like, that was terrible, everything sucked, and I wanted to go back to how things were, right? And that's exactly the sort of goal that you have in like the second act of Outer Worlds, which is to say, I don't want the sun to explode, this sucks. I want to save the solar system, stop the sun from exploding, and go back to how things were with my buddies on the timber hearth, chilling with Gabbro and all that sort of stuff, right? And you want to do that because it's a very tried and true motivation for any story, whether it's a player or it's a character in a book. It's you want to go back to how things were when that's threatened, right?
Yeah, reestablish the status quo.
Yes. And not the sort of like bad political status quo, but like the status quo of
the status quo where the world isn't being threatened by cosmic destruction. Yes, I know what you mean.
Yes, and so it aligned a lot with my own life, which is to say, I just like I couldn't think of anything else but like I don't want to be where I am right now. Yeah. I want to go back. I want to go back in time somehow. I just want things to be how they were for my whole life until then, because now it's all changed and it's all different, right? And then you find out that the sun station, you can't turn it off, or you can turn it off, but it doesn't make a difference. You can't go back to how things were, and it's just like it just hits hard at that point in your life if you're going through that sort of. It's like, fuck, like it's terrible. It's sad. It's melancholic, and it's like, Christ. Well, I don't like this. I feel bad about this. I don't like this, but I have to finish the job. I have to at least finish what the Nomai started. There's a sort of like stoic resolve, I think, in that feeling of finding the advanced warp core and knowing that even if it might not make a difference to anything in the end, it can at least bring you some sort of like closure and going out with a bang. Let's just say that.
A different type of bang.
Turning off the project. Yeah.
A more metaphorical one rather than literal.
Yeah, no. I mean, kind of both, I guess, but still.
But that's true. But you don't know that going into it.
True. But like you see, okay, this stops that. Like if you die here, you die forever, and that's it. So at least I can go out doing something meaningful to what I've been doing, and then and then Final Voyage starts playing, and I'm just in a trance, It's like I am so fucking immersed right now. There is nothing else in my mind except that stoic resolve to go and see what the eye of the universe is, right? And I get into my ship and I go, and the music is just like it's god fucking damn it! It's such a powerful piece of music, and especially how it changes kind of as you go. I've talked about that before. How I think it's one of the first times that the game feels like it's like the world of the game is reacting to something that you're doing, something that's totally you. Because it's obviously there's motifs of like the Nomai playing when you enter like their place and stuff like that, and area things, but like this is reacting to your actions, like the world, which is so it doesn't remark you in any sort of way. It doesn't react to you. You're just like an
apathetic
observer.
to you. It's just
and now
so
it's like reacting
not
to
really changing anything.
But at this moment, some higher sort of something in the universe is recognizing you for doing something that's meaningful, perhaps to everyone in the whole existence, perhaps something like that. And I feel like that's a very powerful feeling, and it filled me at least with the sort of like, as I said many times, a very, very, very strong resolve to do this, even though everything sucks and you can't go back. But let's just see what happens, And then you go there and they punch in the codes, blah 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 blah. Let's go, gas. Gotta step on the gas, and then you go and boom, fade to white. And that moment when it fades to white before you go, before you teleport, finish teleporting into the eye, I was like, the game is going to end here. They don't have the budget to realize this sort of section in any meaningful way, so it's just going to end here, and I'm going to be satisfied because it's going to be left up to the interpretation of what happened. And then it didn't, and then it's like boom, there's like a boom, and then you're in the eye, and I'm like, oh shit, it didn't end here. What the fuck? I actually, because I for some reason I was like dead set on like, okay, this is the perfect time to end the game, right? It's like cool, end credits, but no. And then you go there, and then it's one of the most visually striking fucking things in any sort of media ever. If you turn your flashlight off, the quantum storm, the way, just like the things appear with the objects appear with the lightning strikes and everything, and it's just like, it's marvelous. It's an audiovisual spectacle, especially at that sort of stage of immersion when you don't know what's going to happen. It's such an uncharted ground, and then everything that happens, it's just so immersive, everything that happens in the ancient glade and stuff like that. And I'm not going to go into detail of all of that, but just you see a copy of yourself and you're like, whoa, and then you see the people coming around you to play music and you're like, whoa, and then there's an anglerfish that makes Koo shit his pants twice. And
I didn't remember it happening the first time.
Because I think the first time
I was walking towards it. And so it was like, oh, an anglerfish, haha.
Yeah, now you were speedrunning.
But then the second time I went flying into it because I knew what I was doing, and I jumped towards the instrument as quickly as I could while boosting, and I went straight into its mouth.
Yeah. I think you said that scared you more than anything in the actual DLC.
Yeah, it did.
Yeah,
it totally
that was funny. But yeah. And just, the whole ending just, I was crying for at least half an hour afterwards, just sobbing, because it was about accepting that you can't go back anymore. Like, you can't go back to the way things were, but you can at least, even if you never see it, you can still, leave something for the future. Kind of like Metal Gear Solid 2 in that sense. It's
I think that's what's actually most important, is that the takeaway isn't like be apathetic, like you're given the hand you're dealt, like might as well play it. It's things are the way they are, and you might not be happy with that, but that doesn't mean you still can't influence your future. Like you have to live with what has been given to you, but at the same time, like, you are not powerless. Like, in your own little world, you can change the direction of everything for you at like a personal micro level.
I think I think the ending is more strongly about like the sort of like larger scale, which is to say that like even if like we all die, but like there's always going to be a future that we can't see, but the things we do in our lives
it's
can
literally
make that a better place.
You as both like the player and like the character, the hatchling, shaping a world that's better than the one they lived in because of their learned experience. Like using everything they've learned to make the next generation's life even better. Like, I mean, it's basically what happens, like in the eye, right? Like all of their experiences go into the funny Big Bang bubble, and then it detonates.
Yeah. I guess I saw it more as like they didn't really have an influence in what the next world would have been, which is kind of then kind of tossed aside by even more so by the DLC's addition, which is like, okay, there is some lingering effects of their experiences in the next universe. I kind of like.
I preferred the original. I agree. I prefer.
I like to think about it more as like it's a new world with new people, and they're totally different. But you know, there's like some things still never change, like hanging around a campfire.
Yeah,
with people.
I honestly understood it more as like you don't have power over what comes next, but it does still, like, time still marches on. Like there is a future for the world.
And you need to accept that and just have the comfort of the people around you, you know?
Yeah, and I was under the impression that the way the game ends is basically like the eye, like for all you've done, basically just lets you watch it happen. Like it gives you the gift of seeing the universe begin again. And
I thought you don't. I thought you don't, but I suppose a separation from the character of the hatchling and the player, because my idea was that the character itself is gone, but you know it's just for the viewer to see a little snapshot of the new world. But that can be interpreted in any way, I suppose.
That's fair. Yeah, I still subscribe to my interpretation, but that does
it's
make
your
sense.
Interpretation. Yeah.
Yeah.
I suppose it's like
I think mine is better.
If you hold on, if you hold on more to the connection of the character and the player being the same, then I guess I prefer having just like everyone dies and there's nothing that carries over into the new world. It's completely new and
I do think I prefer that, but I think I was attached enough because like even though I knew that I was basically just playing myself, I still felt somewhat immersed in like the character of the hatchling, and I think I go into games even if you're like role playing kind of with the assumption that like, oh, this is like how things happened for this character, and I just have the pleasure of like experiencing them. Like I project my experiences onto the character, even though it's me doing everything and not necessarily the character themselves. So I think that's probably why I interpret it the way I do, because I still think of the hatchling as a character, even if the character is literally just me.
Sure. I guess, as I said, I think for me that connection got destroyed with the destruction of the universe, I suppose. And after that, it's that story is over, and then it's just kind of you, the player.
Sort of just an epilogue at that point, yeah.
Yeah, like an epilogue for the player. Yeah, but...
Do you still think that the Harthian entered the eye, though? Do you
oh yeah, certainly.
Okay.
I think everything that happens within a lot of people, you know, it's all like, oh, the people are just figments of your imagination. I say, fuck that. Those are the real people. I don't care what anyone says.
Okay. Maybe I'm misunderstanding. I thought you were saying you think that when you say that the character dies when the universe ends, I thought you meant like when you arrive in the ancient glade, like the character is dead.
Oh no, I mean.
Oh, like, then never mind. We're on the same page.
Yeah, I mean, like, I thought you were saying that the very, very, very epilogue after the after
Oh God,
the credits.
no! I know that's a peek through the curtains. No! I more meant like watching the Big Bang, especially since your visor cracks. It's definitely the hatchling.
Then we are on the same page.
Okay, yeah, no, that's what I meant. Like the gift is just being able to see the universe begin, not see what happens in that universe.
Yeah,
because it's just pure white. Like the Hearthian doesn't have a goddamn clue what actually happened, but it's just nice being able to know that there is something that comes next. And that song that plays, the way the music swells when the universe begins again, like, oh my God, I definitely almost started crying again because it's so good. And just like all it is it's just white. Like the game is like, check out this overexposed whiteness. But it's infinitely compelling.
Thank you. Yeah,
thank you for serenading me. Yeah, never mind. We're completely on the same page. We are both such like astute critics of media, and our opinions never disalign.
Anyway, do you think that the people you meet inside the eye are the actual people? Like
I think they're all dead already, and these are just your like hallucinations brought about by the sheer fear.
I don't like that. I don't subscribe to that. I think that they're somehow the people.
I think they're real.
At least their consciousnesses, you know.
Yeah, exactly. Like I mean, I think though, like what you're seeing in the ancient glade might not necessarily be actual reality. But but it's
I still feel like the actual Gabriel and the actual Solanum are still experiencing that.
I still think it is actually them, and I think they you are in interacting with them. Yeah.
Just like you are there in a metaphysical way.
Yeah, no, I like to think that when you're going out gathering all the instruments, like the people already at the campfire are just having a chat, like just talking about.
They're actually there. Like
somehow, I do think they're there. Just because I don't. Sorry.
Yeah.
I don't think.
Finish your thought.
I don't think the hatchling would be speaking for people. Like I don't think that like the hatchling is just making up what these people are saying, because if they're figments of your imagination.
I thought like the theory would be that it's the eye sort of like
I guess projections of the eye. But I feel like if the eye has the power to restart the universe, it probably has the power to summon consciousnesses.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, I feel like to just like zoom them into the team meeting. Like I think it can probably do that.
I feel like the type of people to be like, no, they're totally projections. They're not real. They all die. Are the same people who are like, yo, did you hear about this theory that Pokemon is like Ash's coma? Isn't that crazy, bro? That's exactly the sort of
invalidate an interpretation of the ending.
Yeah, I did because I don't like it.
You have destroyed and smoked them.
Yeah, but that is kind of funny, a funny sort of genre of like media.
Oh yeah, they'll like interpreting some
dream.
Exactly, it's all a dream explanation, because it's so easy to rationalize a fantasy world if it's all in someone's head instead of just accepting
they're just
it
on
as
LSD,
like,
bro.
Yeah, like it's
like come
it's
on,
such
bro.
an obnoxious like it's a cop out when a story actually does it, and it's the worst imaginable way to read a story that doesn't end that way. Because that's not what it was getting at. It's meant to be a separate world. You don't need to somehow ground it in reality. It's fantasy. That's the point of fantasy. The eye is a fictional location with fictional infinite power, and you don't need to rationalize its ability to like make the Hearthian perceive its friends in a world after the world ends.
Yeah, I think one media that does dream thing well is a ballet. I think it's based on a story. It's like a late 19th century story called SpectaKoo in the Underwater Kingdom. And I had the pleasure of seeing a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful painting by Ilya Repin at the Atheneum Art Museum based on that. But the story in a nutshell is that this guy, it's a dream, but this guy is like in an underwater kingdom, and there's like a bunch of brides that are being presented to him, beautiful, beautiful mermaids and stuff like that. But he notices like a very unappealing sort of like just like normal, average sort of like little like, what's the word in English? Like not like a maid. I suppose kind of like a farmer maid sort of woman there, and like chooses her to be his bride. And then he wakes up, but like that sort of like average looking woman in the midst of all the beautiful maidens is his real life wife in his real world, and the sort of idea is that like even in this fantasy setting, with these like fantastical, most beautiful people in the entire world, he still chosen her because that's just like who he truly loves. And that's like the one example I have where it's like it works thematically.
Well, is the story told like with the setup that it is a dream? Like, is that always apparent to the reader?
I haven't read it, so I don't actually know if it's the setup or not.
Because I think it would be enhanced by that. Like, I think it would work better because like the story sounds compelling to me, but I think that's because I knew it was a dream going into it, and I think if you read that and knew it was a dream when you were reading it, that makes it infinitely more interesting because it recontextualizes how you read it. Whereas I think if you just told me that story and ended it with, and then he woke up and it was all a dream, I don't think it would have been as compelling to me because I was looking at it from a completely different lens. So I think it's all a dream fiction honestly works better if the reader knows that versus it just being a cop-out way to justify the events of a story.
Right. Let me actually. I'm reading the synopsis here, and I'm not sure if it said. Yeah. No.
I mean, either way.
Well, I'll have to look into that. Either way,
I don't. Outer Wilds ending, I think, is literal. At least, at least to some degree. Like, I'm sure there's some, metaphysical elements, and themes being distilled into a setting outside the tangible setting of the story itself. But I do absolutely think that we are supposed to interpret that. Yes, the Harthian is actually seeing all this. Yes, those are his besties. Yes, they are actually there. Yes, Solanum, it just is that cool in person.
Yeah, the idea is that like even if it's abstract, metaphysical, it's a metaphor for what might actually be happening. This is the experience that the character and you have. This is what is being experienced through the eyes of the protagonist, and that's how I like to kind of approach these sorts of things. It's like, yeah, this might be sort of like window dressing for some kind of a deeper happening with the universe breaking down. The important thing is that this is what's being experienced. This is what it looks and sounds and feels like. And at that point, what's the point of being like, oh, it was all a hallucination? It's like, how about I shoot you in the face? Is that a hallucination?
Yeah, so, I mean, basically everything that happens in episode 25 and 26 of Evangelion and the end of Evangelion literally happens. There's no metaphors there. That's all exactly as it plays out. One to one.
It's what Shinji experiences. That's
exactly.
Like
No. I'm honestly not only like half quarter joking because it actually is Shinji's experience. So how exactly can you go? Yeah, oh well, it's all in his head. I mean, sure, but he's it's visceral.
Everything.
What he's going through.
Your whole life is in your head. Everything you experience in your entire fucking life is in your head. So
actually, have you ever heard the theory that you're in a coma right now and like this is just a made up world?
The brain in a vat.
Yeah, exactly. This is
it's
actually
like, who cares? What difference does that make?
Yeah,
what difference does that make?
Exactly. Like, would it really change the way you interact with the world? Like, honestly?
Yeah.
Because even if we are a brain in a jar... I guess
in the Matrix sort of sense, I guess, is that like there's a better existence. Yeah, I mean, I guess the idea is that like when you think of... I don't know what the hell you're talking about. I'm trying to like make a connection here. Like in the Matrix, where it's the idea is that like this world is it's the Matrix. I feel like there the idea is that there is a better world if you break out of that thing. And I guess the point with the brain in a vat thing could be like, well, no, but that doesn't make any sense.
If your brain broke out of the vat, I'm sure it would be thrilled to find itself decomposing on a tile floor, drowning in its own fluids.
So what the hell is the point of that? Yeah, fuck you. Fucking philosophy. Jesus Christ. Outer Wilds is good. It's a good ending.
Yeah, I think the Harthian is actually just a brain in a jar. And the Nomai are experimenting on him.
Oh boy. I guess we can have a little bit of a talk on Echoes of the Eye. So we've already talked a little bit about like the horror elements and stuff like that. I personally think that I think I agree with how you said, like, in a way, Echoes of the Eye has a little too much content for like
too
for
little
its own
space.
good.
Yeah.
Yeah, in a sort of sense that, like, it really depends on like how fast you realize stuff. But I certainly have seen with myself and people, while it's a bit of a qualitative categorization, but even so, it's not very objective. But like, even so, more people I feel like have said that they got stuck and they felt frustrated with Echoes of the Eye than in the main game. And obviously, like, you can look at Echoes of the Eye from like a more sort of like just speedrunning perspective of like how are the pieces of information connected in within the sort of like experience. And I think you can probably come to a conclusion and it's still very, very sound and everything leads to each other very well and it's okay paced and like there's a solid structure to the end. But like when you actually play it, I feel like I can't really articulate why. Maybe it's just like the visual storytelling is a little different, but I feel like there's more chances to kind of go astray into
and I
frustration.
think the reason
like not
is
really
because
knowing where to go.
It's too big because it's too tight.
Because in the base game, there's a huge wealth of information that you can uncover, but the thing is that, especially because of the structure of the 3 boss keys, even if you get stumped on something, there's probably something else you can go do anyway. And while you're doing that, you're maybe thinking about the other thing that you couldn't figure out before. And perhaps solving that puzzle will help recontextualize the other puzzle and make it easier to solve when you come back to it. But in the case of Echoes of the Eye, it's like too small in what you can do at like an individual level in the stages of progression, that if you get stumped at something, you're honestly just stuck doing that until you figure it out, because there aren't enough other places to go to like detox and like temporarily step away from it so that you can come back and reassess it later. You're sort of stuck like thumbing at the same thing, which makes it feel like you're wasting your time because you're not given the chance to come back to it with a fresh perspective later by being productive doing something else in the meantime.
That's a very good point, because I think like the main game definitely has, for most people, spots where they get stuck. But as you said, at that point, they can go somewhere else. Like, for example, the whole quantum towers, the quantum moon, that's not really necessary for the main game, but it still is a very good, comprehensive whole of, connecting the dots into a conclusion that's going to give you more understanding on the mechanics of the world and stuff like that. And it's just a nice thing to go kind of between that and then the sort of like more main story elements. And then as you said, in Echoes of the Eye, you basically, it still has the 3 boss keys, right? But there's a very linear path to those keys. It is way more literal in that sort of sense, because like the structure if I remember it correctly, for me it was kind of like you fuck around the stranger for a while, having a good time, and you find out about the dream world, and then essentially there's a couple of little like paths. First of all, you need to do a first run in all of the areas to get into the burning slide reel stuff. And then you find secret entrances into information rooms. And then those information rooms give you another picture, a slide reel of like how to go to a secret entrance inside the dream world, right? I think that's how it went. And then you go into the dream world for like a second run, kind of like that, to go through the areas and then go to the archives and get the glitch stuff, into your brain. That you can figure out some of them beforehand, but probably not all of them, and then you can glitch through to the ending. And I feel like it's just very linear in that it's a lot more linear in that sort of sense. As I said, you have to go to this one place that gives you these specific locations on the stranger, and in those specific locations you have a slide reel that tells you a specific location in the dream that you then have to go through, right? It's a lot more of a gameplay gauntlet, and
and that's the thing.
I still like that.
I was just gonna say it really is a gameplay gauntlet, because I think Echoes of the Eye is kind of missing the meat, because like what keeps you going in Act 2 of the base game is I want to find out what happened to the Nomai. I'm invested in them now. I like these characters. I need to know their full story. Act 3 is, well, even though they're gone and there's nothing I can do to right any wrongs because they didn't actually have any, I at least want to do what they couldn't, to finish what they started, like sort of, if not just for me, for them, for their memory. But with The Stranger and Echoes of the Eye, you're not really following any characters. Like, it's all a bunch of faceless bird people, and you're not really emotionally invested in anything besides maybe they clearly don't want me to like progress, so out of spite I'm going to beat them. And like turning them into of enemies rather than like real characters, like I like a very watered down level, I do think steals some of the emotional thunder from Echoes of the Eye, because I don't feel like I'm following like a history, like in the sense that I'm just compelled to learn about it. It's, well, I kind of want to find out more about the history just because they're clearly trying to stop me from doing it.
I would say I didn't go into it in a spite sense, but I see what you're saying, and I definitely do think that it is just like going for a very different thing, even though it is still Outer Wilds, and I still think that it was worth it to push for a different sort of experience. But I will say that narratively it is much weaker, because it doesn't have those shifts in your goals. Your goal when you enter the stranger is, this is nifty, this is cool, I don't know what's going on here, I want to see how this connects to the main story. And by the time you walk into the vault at the end of the DLC, you're like, this is nifty, I want to see how this connects to the main story, right? Like, your perspective on what you're doing there doesn't change at all throughout. Like, your I still had an intrinsic motivation of like, I want to find out what's going on here, but it doesn't ever go past that. It's always just, I want to find out what happened here. You know?
Yeah, because I don't think
cool. And you know what? I just want to say, like, that is still cool.
Yeah.
On a conceptual level and like as a whole. But like when you compare it to the narrative meat of the base game, it's just not. It just doesn't have the same thing, you know.
Yeah, it doesn't have
the same meat.
The
like,
3-act structure of curiosity, then investment, and then just wanting closure. It's like you show up with curiosity, and it's just kind of curiosity the whole way through. Because I don't think you ever really get invested in it, because you're never given anything concrete enough to grab onto. And it's just, I want to learn how the information I've already consumed like is important. Like, why is it relevant? Whereas it feels less like you're getting deeper into a story and more like you're solving the mystery, but without the story attached to it.
Right. And I feel like one thing that could have made it a little more investment, which would be a little more investable, I can't speak right now, would be to just like have more like you can still have characterization through visual.
In silent media, you can totally still, but the stranger just pops up at the end. Like, the prisoner.
The prisoner. That's what I was going to say afterwards. It's like, just make the prisoner a recurring character. Like there is, like, okay, they have a physical attribute that would make them easy to identify, a broken off antler, right? Okay, so why don't I remember seeing them at all? And that's because they're not given any sort of characterization. Like the characterization that is given is always as a collective, as a community. Mm-hmm. They're not individuals. And like one thing that I liked was in the mansion place. I don't remember the names of the areas. They have names too, but like the mansion place where there's one guy that's looking at like a slide reel, right? And like you see their shadow, right? And you go, wow, this guy's like really far gone, just like mindlessly going through nostalgically to like this place. What happened? What did he go crazy? It's like, that's cool, But like when that's every single other stranger as well, it kind of loses that intrigue because like, oh, that's just how they all are. It's like if like you can still do characterization. And it's like you see like most of the slide reels, they just walk around and show stuff, and it's like very sterile, kind of like scientific, like documentation. It's like, you can still add characterization there. It's
like I
make
think
them have colored robes and make the different colored people act differently. Like so,
I think it makes sense. The point they end up in, like in the dream worlds, like obviously after you've been trapped for like countless millennia,
show the deterioration of that
in an unchanging world. Well, exactly. Well, being trapped in a world like that would turn everyone into zombies that are like clinging to nostalgia because they can't change their present.
We saw
so
that
they
development
can,
more.
Well, exactly. Is you can make characters in the like story being told, and then when you get to the present, you realize that those characters are dead. Like even though their like bodies are still walking around, like the people they are have just been eroded by time. Like I think that could have been compelling.
Christ, I'm like this is like inspiring me now. Like I'm having so many like visualizations. I'm like imagining like a more of a like a security camera sort of thing where you can like see candid perspectives of characters. Like for example, like someone like let's say after the realization that the eye is showing them like the end of the universe, it's like someone like goes and just like sits on a chair like secluded, and there's like a security camera that you can look through their feet and just see them kind of like break down there alone. Like think about that, and it's like we do see a shift, but it's like so sudden. It's like they're excited and then they go and then they get mad and then they're like everyone's just like in a hive mind now.
And it's because as an additional layer, it would have been compelling to bump into the slide reels and like the order you like any player would like just like in a different order for each player, but then having distinct character traits for each character that's like being portrayed. Like you get to the eye reel first and you see people react differently to it, and then you're like, oh, like that's interesting, different people are reacting different ways, and then you get to other slide reels and suddenly their actions start to make sense because you get to understand more of who those people were, so you know why they reacted the way they did to the eye. And maybe the prisoner's reaction was different compared to all of the other people that's like ended up finding out what the eye really was. And that would have made it more interesting to be like, oh, what happened to that guy? But instead, what happens is that by removing characters from a story, it's less of a narrative that you're learning about, and it's more like thumbing through Wikipedia articles, honestly, because you're getting all the information.
Articles, that's what they are. They're WikiHow articles showing you how to go through the store.
Yeah.
Because like as I said before, like you have these like you see a secret room and then you go to the secret room and it shows you. It's like in the base game, we talked about this a little bit. In the base game, that would have been like I had the example of the thing in like Giant Steep where you like want to go into the statue island, right? And then the door is closed, and then you see like a little log of like kids being like, "Oh, we want to go and watch the experiment. Oh, but they locked the door. We can't go there. Yeah, what if we use the secret route?" And I'm like, no, fucking Pi told us not to do that, but fuck Pi, let's do it. And it's like, okay, you're getting the information that you need, but you're also getting just world building, characterization, stuff like that. It's like that's just missing completely.
Instead of like how-to infomercials.
Yeah, and it's like I'm just imagining like just with different antler shapes and different colored robes and clothes, it would be very easy to, even if you don't have text, you can still stick with the textless style, but it would be still easy, I think, to have like just a few specific. It doesn't have to be every one of them, but just like a few specific characters that kind of are recurring, and
no,
just
for sure.
And then like seeing those clothes and those antler shapes in the dream world as they are just like these husks that are out there to just like kill you. It's it wouldn't take away from the horror. I think it would just add to it.
No, for sure, because it's like these are people I kind of know. Like I've learned something about these. They aren't just like on faceless zombies that I can't associate personalities with. It's like, oh, these were people and look what's left of them. Like I should obviously I think it should go without saying, but like Echoes of the Eye is still really good. Like it's
still really,
it's well
really
structured.
good.
I think just next to the base game, it's unfortunately put like against like a pedestal that is very difficult to climb onto, and I think just with a narrative titan the base game is, Echoes of the Eye just doesn't like hold a candle to it. If you'll
the Outer Worlds, because I generally don't have any sort of like gripe with Outer Worlds, at least on a narrative level. Like I cannot see what they could have done better. You know, like it's very hard to think of that, and like for me, I feel like you played Echoes. I mean, you still had a break, but like I played Echoes of the Eye, you know, like over 2 years after Outer Worlds came out, right? Because it was like in fall 2021. So for me, I had more time to kind of lose the hype, because that's what I like. Even if it was a DLC to Outer Worlds, I was still like, it'll come out when it comes out. I'll play it, maybe. I don't know. And well, okay, maybe on launch day I might have been like, oh fuck, Outer Worlds, Echoes of the Eye, oh my god. But like mostly before that, I was just like, I don't care. It's good if it's good. And then I played it, and it was like, wow, this is really awesome. I love this. And I had a great time with Echoes of the Eye. But yeah, in hindsight, it's like, and obviously, I'm not a game designer, and I think you're not as well. So it's like, this is not like we could have done a better job.
Oh yeah,
that's certainly not what we're saying. This is just like spitballing ideas for kind of like our like ideal Echoes of the Eye. You know?
Yeah, I think part of the reason why I feel the way I do is because even if they were both compelling to play, the base game is so much more fun to think about and just talk about. Yeah, and it's like
there's not much to think about after.
There's not a lot to unpack from Echoes of the Eye, with the exception of how it connects to the events of the base game. Because I think that's really interesting. That's
awesome.
But that's just because it's something that adds meat to a really good story. And Echoes of the Eye on its own just doesn't have enough meat to be a main course. It's just
I definitely love
dish.
I really like, because like for me, I was like, my hesitance for Echoes of the Eye was that I was like, you can't add to the main game. Don't touch it. Fuck off. Shoo. I'm like a cat. Like, you know, they're trying to put their greasy, gross hands on the perfect game that is Outer Worlds, on the perfect story. But I do think that the DLC adds to it, with the exception of the little bit at the very, very, very epilogue screen where I get it, but I wish that wasn't there. That's the only gripe, because I want the new world to stay unaffected by the old one, but you know,
I think it makes it a little bit too personal, because I think like the disconnection like is just such a nice way as like a send off to emphasize how much grander everything is than just you and me. Whereas now it's like, actually, you were really important and you reshaped like the next universe. And it's like,
I feel like it's almost antithetical to like Echoes of the Eye, because like the prisoner comes in, it's like, oh, we were scared of the future, but we shouldn't be scared. Let's just let what happens happen. But can we please still have like a kind of like our people in the new world, please. And then the Eye is like, okay, fine. It's like, you know, that's kind of how I see it.
It's like did we barter with like the heart of the universe? Like I don't know. I feel like that's
did it feel sympathy? Yeah. Because I feel like that like idea was that should have been the acceptance of that, you know, of accepting that fate. And not like
it almost feels
the past.
Like a little bit deterministic too, doesn't it?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying.
Like you've learned more because of the prisoner and because of the stranger. So like that will change the way the next universe is, so that way like the same mistakes won't be repeated. But that's not giving like the universe the freedom to make its own mistakes. So
yeah, that's what I'm saying.
I don't really like that.
Yeah, no.
Actually, the Echoes of the Eye is a bad DLC, and I think it ruined the game for me.
Okay. No, I do, but everything else in the ending, in the main game's ending, as or the sequence for I think it's just nice. I mean, it
Oh,
doesn't
yeah.
add like anything new thematically, but it's just a wonderful, wonderful little like visualization of like letting go of everything and accepting that nothing will be the same anymore. Everything will be gone, but you know what? That's okay because the world will move on. And I just love the bit with like the mirror, and it's like, oh shit, I'm saying goodbye to myself too, aren't I? You know?
Yeah, I honestly think that the like actual ending per se to Echoes of the Eye is honestly a little bit more powerful because I think and I think it ties into like the like dreamy nature of it too a bit. But I think the thematics of the ending of Echoes of the Eye are a little bit different. Where when the base game ends, it's embracing the change of like the physical world, like rebirthing itself, and you not necessarily being there to see the future, but just the hope of knowing that there will be one. I think in Echoes of the Eye, it's a little bit more spiritual, where it's, even though like our physical bodies are already dead, and this is like our minds, our consciousness, who we are dying along with them, like we're still going in to the next life, like with someone else. And even if there's nothing after death, or if there is something, we're still going in to that more metaphysical realm of consciousness, like together, and like and there's hope in that. So I think whereas the ending of the base game is more tangible, like the future literally marching on, I think Echoes of the Eye is about like spiritual death and like moving on with like the fact that things have to come to an end for us personally, but that there's still something else, I guess, if that makes sense for us.
You mean that? You mean with like the vision of like the going into the sunset together?
Yeah, exactly.
That sort of stuff.
Where
yeah. I was talking about the candles and the mirrors in the base game ending.
Oh, I know. I was just I springboarded.
Yeah.
Onto,
Just
like,
just
the
make
Echoes
it.
of the Eye.
Yeah.
No. I know what you're talking about.
I like it. I just wasn't as emotionally invested just because I didn't.
Oh no, I just think
really
it's nice.
know the prisoner.
Like I like what it's going for.
It's still great.
Even if it didn't mean as much to me.
Like totally, and I think like the stand-down musical part in this DLC was certainly Echoes of the Eye, the track that plays when you show the prisoner everything you've learned, and it's just really nice because it's the first time you kind of. It's the first time the character kind of communicates outside of you, right? I mean, you can select,
Well, I know what you mean though, where it's like
dialogue.
if you're picking dialogue prompts, it feels like your decision.
Or putting down rocks. You're putting down rocks for Sodom, but this is like the Hearthian finally having their own voice in a way.
Yeah, like that didn't have anything to do with me. Like I basically just kind of gave the hatchling permission to like show the prisoner what they wanted to show them. Like
especially because it's information that we don't know, like hatchling being young and that sort of stuff. And it's like,
yeah,
I thought it was just really wonderful seeing that. It was really
and I do
emotional
think it's sad that what was probably the most emotionally impactful part of the DLC for me was still something that was just basically the base game being.
Yeah, it was sort of like nostalgia for the base game.
Yeah, exactly. Like the fact that the best part about like the new additions is it like iterating upon
Connecting
the old
to the
stuff.
base game.
Like it's like it was nice, but it almost kind of feels bad that was the best part of it.
Yeah, well, I don't know if it's necessary. I don't know if that's like by default a bad thing, because like if that's what it's going for, then that's what it's going for.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
But I do think it's a shame that I personally didn't take more away from it.
Yeah, no, I get it. But it's wonderful, and that's the song that I covered. That's gonna come out.
It's good. It's really
at some
good.
point, once the Pixel Mixers album is gonna be released, then I'll be putting that out. But I have to wait. In the meantime, I'm doing a Central Factory from Xenoblade 1 with some awesome people. We got like Russell Torres. We got like Alejandro Espinosa, my fucking man, Wolfman, who I've done stuff for Siva Gunner with, like his big band, and then my own covers. Subscribe to Alejandro Espinosa, okay? That's my plug. That's my plug right here. It's my only plug. I'm not gonna plug myself. I'm gonna plug my boy Wolfman. Anyway, I agree mostly with the ending stuff. I guess stray thoughts about Echoes of the Eye. The river theme is awesome when you're sailing.
I like when you're up with at the dam. It plays like the electric guitar.
It's like an ending. It's like an ending to the song.
Yeah, honestly, I'm gonna be honest. I thought that's what the prisoner would be playing in the ending until I realized that I don't think they had electric guitars on the Stranger, so it probably makes more sense.
Yeah, they have like a little like they have like
what are they playing, a mandolin or what's it called? What the prisoner plays?
I think it's more. It's like a bowed string instrument.
Yeah, but what is it?
That's not a mandolin. Isn't a bowed string instrument. That's more like a cello.
Theremin.
Yeah, it sounds like a theremin, but theremin is what it sounds like, but it looks like a bowed string instrument, which is like, okay, that's funny. It's like a theremin cello.
Yeah, I mean, that's.
Did you just confuse a theremin with a mandolin?
Is there that strong of a difference? Hold on.
A mandolin is like a Balkan sort of guitar.
Oh.
And the theremin is a little piece of metal that you hover your hand near.
Okay, well, I had literally never seen a theremin before, and all I know is that during like the ending, like a few people came into chat and said that the instrument that the prisoner plays is a theremin. So I just assumed that mandolin-looking instrument they were holding was a theremin, because I didn't know any better.
Huh. Yeah, well, they probably used theremin for the sound, but like it.
Right. Okay. Yeah, that confused the hell out of me. Okay, this makes much more sense.
Yeah.
I think they should have played a jaw harp. Yeah, we add a little boing boing sound to the Travelers.
Yeah, just
theme.
like
that would work.
Yeah, just like, hey, yo, what up, guys? Let me get in on this.
I kind of do wish it was actually
the pull. Yeah.
No, you were saying something funny. I'll let you go on.
No, you were saying something funnier.
No, I was just gonna say I wish you like actually did whip out an electric guitar and like plug in an amp and just start like blasting in the ancient glade.
That would be awesome. I was thinking he was like
stage lights.
I was thinking he pulls out the slide whistle. That's his instrument. Yeah. Not
the
even
triangle.
Like trying to play the melody. The triangle.
It needs more cowbell.
Oh yeah, that's true. That's true. That's what we should play, because we don't have an instrument. The player doesn't.
You're right.
The player should have cowbell button.
I feel like the player is kind of encouraged to hum along. Like I think.
Yeah, I guess, but it's a little interesting that they never gave you an instrument, because I feel like it would have been an easy addition to like into your gear set.
Yeah, it should have been like Vintage Story, where like every seraph's voice is like a unique instrument that the player gets to decide on.
Huh.
Yeah, it's basically just like that. But yeah, no, I do think that it genuinely would have been like a good like just kind of throwaway feature to give you like an instrument to have that you can like with like a real time way to play it, even if it's not necessarily accurate to how you would actually play the instrument. Like that'd be kind of
well,
neat.
Yeah. I mean, they could sync it up with like everything the other characters are playing.
Because every other like member of Outer Wilds Adventures has one. So
I mean, you could genuinely just have a like hold A to play the thing, and then you're playing
exactly
like the other players are.
No, for sure.
And then you could play that.
I just meant like as something that you just always had like in your kit in the ship.
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
Just had an
that's what I
instrument
mean.
that you could
that's
just play. You just like make noise with, and then at the end of the game it would be like hold A to. Oh, okay. Well, I didn't know if we were.
Yeah, I meant like
once again we're on the same
every
page.
part of. Yeah, I meant like the loop would be playable at any part of the game, you know.
Oh,
and it would always be synced up, and they would be always synced up to the other players.
Oh no! See, what I was saying is your entire keyboard should turn into
like
a note sheet, and you should be able to. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know about that, but you know, I feel like it would have. I mean, obviously, you can say a lot of things would have been a good addition. Like I think grappling hooks would have been a good addition to Outer Wilds, but I think it would have been cool to have like an instrument that you can like you're all alone on like a planet that you don't know anyone else is in there, but you're like, well, they're playing music, so if I play music, it's like I'm in a little concert with them, even if I can't hear them.
Harmonic
you know?
Convergence. Yeah, you could play it on the Quantum Moon.
Harmonic convergence. Isn't that what they fucking happens in like Avatar or something?
Well,
The Last Airbender.
yeah. Well, I mean, it's a real thing. It's when like all of the planets in a solar system line up. Like that's harmonic convergence.
Yeah.
When their orbits
That
just
doesn't
happen to
change
align.
anything.
I think it also
But they
happens
don't
in one of
ever
the
really-
Teenage Mutant
they
Ninja
don't-
Turtles movies.
They don't actually align though, because like they're not fully flat. The orbits. They can't like completely line up.
I'm pretty sure that there is technically a point in each orbit where they could line up. I'm pretty sure harmonic convergence
Can
is
the-
like conceptually
Can the
real.
planets line up? The system can never come into perfect alignment.
That's stupid.
Yeah, because like it's not actually a flat like plane that they're all spinning around, right?
Well, yeah, I know it's not flat. It's somewhat imperfect, but you can get close to it.
Yeah. Yeah, you can get like all of the planets in like the same sky, I guess.
Yeah, I do think it probably says something that when you look up harmonic convergence and go to images, it's either all Korra or it's like astrology, like chakra aligning imagery.
Oh,
So-
it was Korra, not Avatar. My bad. did I
Yeah,
remember
Sozin's
that?
Comet was Avatar. Harmonic convergence was Korra.
Yeah. Wait, when did Legend of Korra final season? When did it come out? 2016?
Right, that recent. I didn't realize
Well,
that.
2014.
Never
2014.
mind.
Wow. That's 8 years ago.
Christ, I
Korra came
only
out-
just finished it like a year ago or something.
I watched the last season as it came out. I was there. I was there when like they were like,
That's
"Oh my
crazy.
god, they're holding hands! They're holding hands! Oh, they're lesbian! They're holding hands! Oh my god, they showed that! Oh my god!" You know.
Is that the conclusion you had as a 13-year-old?
Well, it was a huge thing. Like there was a big thing that they managed to show even that much on like Nickelodeon
Oh,
back in the day. That was
as like a stupid kid, I don't even think I would have realized the significance of that. I would have been like,
No, you see, my,
my
my
gosh, they
sibling
love
who's
each other.
3 years older than me, they're a huge Tumblr person, and they were a Tumblr person for a young age. So I was in the gay fandom stuff from a
right.
very young age.
Okay, I don't think I entirely was. So that is interesting.
Why does Korra look kind of like me in this poster?
I was in the like Pokemon chat room on DeviantArt phase of my life.
I was still on Miiverse, but like I also had the connection of like sometimes seeing
Book 4
into the
balance.
curtains of
God,
Tumblr.
that is such a bad poster.
Well, but look at the hairstyle. It's kind of like me though.
Oh, that is true.
Yeah.
That is Korra's best
Cool.
hairstyle.
It is. I like it. It's
Yeah,
a little like Nausicaa like.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, it's her. I really like the outfit too. Like, I got so sick of the characters all wearing the same clothes all the time. But then in like season 4, they shook it up a little bit, and I'm like, oh.
Oh yeah, she does look kind of like Nausicaa, doesn't she?
I didn't say that, but
No, I said
I guess
that,
she
and
kinda
then I
does.
confirmed myself.
right,
Yeah.
okay, yeah. No,
Are you jealous that I got to see Nausicaa in 35mm film
no,
in the theaters? Oh,
no, I'm very happy.
I thought
for
you'd be
you.
jealous.
No, because I've already
Oh.
seen it like 7 times, so and I can watch it again
Yeah, okay,
anytime I
fine.
want because I own it. So
Yeah, I guess, but you can't have the crackle of the audio and then the little
yeah,
artifacts
the warm
of the
wash
film
sound
reel.
created by the vacuum tubes. I know.
Yeah, that they used to make the lightsaber sounds.
What?
They
Yeah,
used
I-
like a film projector to
I think
make the
we've gone
lightsaber
off the
sounds in
deep
Star
end
Wars.
from Outer
Yeah,
Wilds
true. That's a good
discussion.
time to wrap this up.
Yeah.
So, what score out of 100 would you give Outer Worlds?
84.
It's literally 1984.
Okay, that's not even the joke I was trying to make. Something as specific as that like sucks. I think I would give it a. Well, I'm gonna crunch the scale. I would give it a 4.5 out of 5. I'd give it a 4.5 stars. I think that is if I used like the same sort of internal logic that I use to like rate my personal experience with movies, because I think it is the best game I have ever played. Like I think like best is the word I would give it. It may not be my favorite game, even if it is one of my favorites. And I think for its level of personal impact on me, I would give it 4.5. I think that's how I would rate it. Like I think as far as personal impact goes, I think something like Undertale would probably get like a 5. But like because so much of how I rate something like past 4 stars is based on personal impact, I think Outer Wilds is 4.5 for me. And I also just think. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, finish.
No, you go ahead.
No, finish.
Oh, I was just gonna say, I think media that I'm able to return to does have its perks, and I think the fact that I can only play Outer Wilds once does kind of steal the possibility of me ever thinking more or less highly of it, because it's so fixed by only being able to be played once. So I think 4.5 is just kind of the limbo it's gonna end up being stuck in.
Right. For me, if we're going kind of by an adaptation of the Letterboxd sort of scale, then Outer Wilds would obviously be a 5 stars for me.
Oh, of course.
That's no surprise. And then like something like, and then the other POG games like Undertale and Hollow Knight, and then Umineko, if we count that as a game. I like to count that as a game because it means that it's literally been
it's
one
interactive
POG game
media.
per 2 years. Because 2015, 2019, 2015, 2017, 2019, 2021, it's somehow lined up for 4 times so far. So I like to count Umineko in that. So yeah, those 4 would be 5 stars, and then like below that would be like the runner-ups of like life-changing, but like not quite on that level. So that would be like Super Mario Galaxy, I think, like Rain World, Subnautica, I think would come to mind in that sort of range. And then below that, 4 stars and below are like games that are fucking awesome and amazing and probably technically like great, but just like I have to separate the amazing games from like the amazing games that are also like more transcendentally relevant to my weird psyche, if that makes any sense.
Yeah. Like I think for me, like even though Outer Wilds is the best game I've ever played and easily the best game I've played this year, I think something like Kenshi is actually like more emotionally important to me. Like I think Kenshi has had more of an emotional influence on like who I am per se than Outer Wilds has, which I think is a deranged statement and makes me crazy.
I don't know.
But like Kenshi just has done that for me in a way Outer Wilds didn't necessarily like go to. And I think again that's because like Outer Wilds is limited in what it can do for you because it's something you can only play once. It's something that takes a certain amount of time. Whereas Kenshi doesn't end. It's just a story that you get to keep telling. So I think they're sort of almost like complete opposites in that sense, but I love them both so dearly. So
right,
I've played some really good games this year. Outer Wilds is really nice to have on that roster.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever really played single player like not like how would I describe like Genshin compared to like a long RPG? I mean like single player games that don't have a conceivable end point, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no. They're usually not my cup of tea either. It's like huge open world games with like no goal. Like stuff like Minecraft honestly bores me to death. I think the 2 exceptions are Vintage Story and Kenshi. Because I think Vintage is just like the world is absolutely amazing and the music is so important to everything it is. And it's just fun to... I think they're actually 2 sides of the same coin. Where Vintage Story is about telling a story by interacting with other people, and I think Kenshi is about telling your own story with the characters that you find. Yeah, I know. I'm sorry. That was like a really bad point I was making there. Yeah, I'll stop talking.
There's a fucking pigeon on my windowsill. It's almost
Don't
coming
be mean
inside.
to them. Don't tell them to piss off. Let them hang out. They're having such a lovely time. They're just checking in on you.
I'll let him hang out. He's kind of looking at me like what do you do?
Magpies have been showing up when I eat my dinner out on the porch.
Magpies are cool, but like pigeons aren't corvids.
Magpies. Okay, excuse me. Pigeons are incredible, and if you ever say something like that again, I will cry because pigeons are amazing, and they go and then they like eat breadcrumbs, and they have no brain.
And rats.
Yeah, and they're so look at them. They're so cool. How could you ever? They have like a pink neck. They're incredible. Anyway. Yeah, no. Magpies have been like a magpie showed up when I was finishing my dinner like a few days ago, maybe a week. And every time I would like look back to what I was reading, like it would inch closer to my plate, and then I would look at it and it would like back up and just like stare me down. So I just like finished eating what I wanted to, and then pushed the plate away, and then just like looked away so that it could like eat my curry, and then it flew off. And then came back with another magpie, and they started like going to town on it. And now every time I go to eat out there, they show up and just like wait patiently for me to finish my meal, and then I push it over to them, and then they eat what's left of it and then leave. They seem to.
That's a really great Outer Wilds story.
Yeah, I think that's actually, yeah. See, I might not have done that if I hadn't played Outer. No, I absolutely would have still done it. But you know,
if you hadn't played Undertale, though, that's a different story.
Ooh, yeah, there we go. Do a little armchair psychology.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Be sure to say shout-outs to the Pope.
Playing Megalovania.
Yeah, and playing Undertale, because he has a copy of Undertale.
Yeah, and he doesn't know how to boot it up, unfortunately. So. He's never been able to play it.
What do you mean? He's a technologically astute little old man.
Isn't he actually quite big?
Anyway, let's just wrap it up. Maybe. I don't know what to say for the end except like Outer Wilds good.
I was literally about to just say Outer Wilds good. So once again, we're on the same wavelength. Outer Wilds good sure. Indeed.
Outer Wilds good. I don't know if we'll do this again. Who knows? I don't know where this is.
I'm adding one more thing. I think if everyone in the world had to play Outer Wilds as just a part of their like formative education, the world would be a better place.
True.
I do like I say that half as a joke, but I genuinely believe that. Like I actually believe that.
It's true.
I think it could change enough minds and be formative for enough people that the world would be different and better if everyone experienced Outer Wilds on a mass scale. You're right. Which part of me feels like
and that's why I gave the Pope a copy of Outer Wilds.
It's better. I think it's a better thing to give the Pope than Undertale, in the very least. Like, I feel like you could justify giving the Pope Outer Wilds. I don't know logistically and holistically that you could justify giving the Pope Undertale. Like, it's just not right. Like, you're just giving like someone like an anime weeb game that happens to be very emotionally impactful. Outer Wilds is like
I mean Undertale's whole themes is kind of like the golden rule of, don't hurt if you don't want to be hurt. So I see it. I think.
Okay, here I'll put it in these terms. Outer Wilds wasn't developed by a Homestuck author, so I feel like that just like grounds it more as like a valid piece of media.
You're right. I suppose you're right. Thanks for listening.